Oh, no, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay. Did I get your name wrong? I see Nathan Thomas on the bottom.
Yeah, I'm Nathan Thomas. It's not a
All
big deal.
right. That was all on me. Nathan Thomas, not Nathan Purcell. My apologies.
All right. I am going to share some content with you guys.
Just 1 second. I'm making you the presenter right now, Nathan.
Yep.
And you should be able to share your screen now.
Perfect. All right. How's that look? I got it.
Nicely done. Yep.
Okay. All right. So thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for showing some interest in the field. My name is Nathan Thomas. I'm a project engineer for Purcell Construction. A little bit about Purcell, some background for you. We started in 1922 as DeLine Construction. Started with a pickup and a wheelbarrow. In 1963, Robert Purcell and Edward Culligan purchased DeLine Construction, and they expanded to general contracting, building a lot of local banks, churches, and other institutional structures. In 1973, the name was officially changed to Purcell Construction Corporation. In the early 2000s, 2005, we expanded to a Virginia branch. And as of today, 2014 through now, we're still evolving and expanding. So we've been a pretty successful design build company in construction for the last 4 decades or so. So there's some opportunities in construction that we'd like to share. For your general trades, there's carpentry, craft laborer, a glazer, heavy equipment operator, iron worker, mason, painter, roofer, and welder. There's other ones, but these are generally the most common ones that you come across. And then for the MEP trades, there's boilermakers, electricians, HVAC technicians, instrumentation techs, insulators, pipe fitters, plumbers, and sheet metal workers. This is just a broad spectrum of everything that the construction industry envelopes. As far as construction management goes, usually requiring higher education, architects and engineers, which you'll speak with some today, some safety techs, project managers and engineers, site layout and survey engineers, superintendents and foremen, CAD and BIM associates, which is more specifically what I do. I manage our 3D modeling and our in-house drafting, and administrative staff. Now, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into the whole construction process that I think people who are less familiar with the industry tend to not realize, that there's a lot of back end in-house things that need to be taken care of that are more than just the guys in the field or the guys in the trailer managing the job. So as far as a career path goes, you start in elementary school, go to middle school and then high school or vocational school, and then you decide if construction or architectural engineering is the path that you want to take, which path you want to go. You can go craft and tech training through an apprenticeship to a craft professional. You can go to a tech or community school and then an apprenticeship up to a foreman, college or university if you want to go construction management. Basically is just a matrix of the path that you can take through the management chain, and it just shows that there's many different opportunities in construction to reach the end goal, which is some form of management or some form of higher position with higher responsibility. As far as pay goes, because that's as everybody gets older, they tend to realize that usually your income influences how expansive your life can be. And this is just basically showing, as far as all occupations, the median value in New York State, what the average salary is per person in New York State that works is $43,000. Now, entry level construction laborers at entry level is 3% under the state average. Carpenters are 26% higher. Electricians are 63% higher. Pipe fitters 64% higher, and supervisors and extraction workers are 82% higher. Now, money isn't everything, but this just shows that the construction industry can be very lucrative if it's the path that you decide that's best for you. Where you can learn to enter the construction field, if it's something that you're more interested in, you can go through trade school, which is high school classes and BOCES certifications. Or if you want to seek out construction management training, there's some SUNY programs, Alfred, Canton, Delhi, Monroe, CC, Morrisville, SUNY ESF, and others. I'm a SUNY Canton alumni. I know there's many people that in our company that are Clarkson alumni and Canton primarily. And then there's private options, which is Clarkson, RIT, RPI, Utica, and UNOH, which I'm sure you guys will get more acclimated with as you progress through your education path. I think this is just the Build Your Future link that we suggest so people can get on there, and it'll have more information on top of what everybody shares. But I think the message that we try to relay here at Purcell and most people in the industry is there's a lack of interest from younger generations in construction, and the mean age of people in construction that are in the field workers right now, I believe, is 47 years old. So there's a big generational gap between people coming up in the construction industry and people that are going out of the industry. And at some point, there's going to be an extreme shortage. So it's not a bad trade to get into. It's definitely, you can get a sense of accomplishment going home, and it can be a very lucrative path for you in your future if that's what you decide. And I think there's ample opportunity in the construction industries. Things are always changing. There's always going to be medical and school. 812, please. I apologize. And other things that are going to need construction. Construction's not going away, but people showing interest in the industry and people that are coming up through is declining. So at some point, there's going to be a big work gap between people that are available to work in the industry and work demands in the industry. But as far as that goes, I mean, I've pretty much covered everything that I believe we wanted to cover over here. So if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know, please.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's really interesting to know all the different things that you can do within one type of organization, one type of area. Do we have any questions? If you'd like to, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you can type in the Q&A. All right. If we don't have any questions, and if you do, we can always try to circle back around. He might not be here if he has somewhere else to be. So please make sure that you leave your questions as they come up into the Q&A so that our panelists, I know they're very busy right now because we've had a lot, they all have a lot of work that they need to get done. So please make sure that you answer put your questions in the Q&A or raise your hand so that way we can answer your questions if you need to. But thank you so much, Nathan. We're going to move on to Kelly Reinhardt from BCA Architects and Engineers. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Good morning. Let me share my screen, please. Cool. Do you see that? All right. My name is Kelly Reinhardt, and oh, I went back a couple. This is me. I'm the Director of Business Development with BCA Architects and Engineers. We are a 100-person firm of all trades, all disciplines and we're celebrating our 50th year this year. My title, Director of Business Development, means that I go and get us new jobs or try to get new jobs for us. So we are not just architects and engineers. I have a marketing director that works with me and a graphic designer that works with me to put together proposals, presentations. We go to conferences. I build relationships basically to get new work for the firm. Like I said, we're celebrating our 50th year. I've been there 15 years, and we have offices. Our main headquarters is in Watertown, New York. We're probably 60 people there. And we started in 1970, and we've been in a couple of different offices in Watertown. That building on the left you see is the former Mullen Street Elementary building, which is then served as the U.S. Naval Station, where my grandfather was stationed. And BCA bought it around 16 years ago and renovated it. And we've packed it with people on all 3 floors, including the basement, when we're growing out of it. We then went over to Ithaca about 6 years ago, and we grew from 1 person with a table to about 22 right now. We're out of room. And then we're in Saratoga in Christmas time, right on Broadway in that beautiful office. And we've opened it up just to shut it down this year for a little bit. So we're all over the state working in a lot of different disciplines, and I will tell you who we hire. Along with marketing and business development, we hire architects, engineers, surveyors, technicians, and field personnel. We do architecture, engineering, and construction management. For instance, right now, I'll talk about for K-12, we're in 50 school districts across the state, including we're doing construction management at Jeff Lewis BOCES. So another architecture firm designed a project for that. They went out to bid. They hired contractors such as Purcell and others. And then we have a construction management firm that makes sure everything is running smoothly, on time, on budget, as easy as that is. It's not. So I'm going to basically take us through pretty quickly types of projects, type of clients that we work with, and for the students here, what is involved and who is involved in doing a project such as this. So K-12 projects across the state, like I said, 50 school districts. This one is Warrensburg Central School District over in the Adirondacks, over by Lake George and Saratoga, actually. This is a new auditorium renovation, and it needed an architect to design it. It needed a structural engineer to make sure the walls and the flooring can handle all that weight, and that ceiling piece to be done. We needed interior designers to pick out the carpet, the curtains, the wall, the wood, the ceiling things upstairs. All those chairs were perfectly selected for their colors and everything. So being a full service firm means you kind of walk across the street or the hallway to talk to the structural engineer about this project. Some firms are just architecture firms, and they would have a sub-consultant working for them to do the structural, the civil, the mechanical. This also needed sound and acoustical people, which are specialists, to make sure the person in the back left corner can hear the person on stage. The HVAC needs to not be loud. The air conditioning needs to not come on and be loud that everybody has to turn everything up. It's major electrical, major MEP going on for this. So we do that sort of stuff for school districts like Watertown City School District, Jeff Lewis BOCES, all across the state. The next thing we touch on is we have a healthcare division. We're working with Samaritan Medical Center, River Hospital. And for instance, this room, this MRI room or CAT scan room, I don't even know what it is actually, needed major mechanical, electrical, plumbing, different than just a regular room for an office. This has gas, this has electricity to power this thing up. It needed perfect temperature control in there. It needed a floor that could handle the heavy piece of machinery here, and security and air, clean air and everything else. So it's kind of funny speaking to these projects in terms of, I usually do marketing for this project. I'm like, oh, you know, we can help you design your perfect hospital project, whatever, but speaking to it for what is actually all the different disciplines and the type of people that worked on this, just this room is interesting for me. The next type of work we do is a lot of government work. And right now we're actually doing the state office building on Washington Street in Watertown. We've had like 5 or 6 huge $2 or $3 million contracts with the Office of General Services with New York State. And they own all of the correctional facilities, the state office buildings, and mental health facilities and whatever. And we're working a lot with correctional facilities, including Attica, which is historic and famous. We redid this tower. But right now, what's cool is we've flown all over the state to work on projects for the state, like on Long Island and wherever. But now we finally have one, which is right at like 3 blocks away at the state office building. That auditorium's being gutted right now, which is great. So the next thing we have is a civil engineering department that works for the municipalities on water projects, sewer projects, stormwater, whatever. But water tanks are usually necessary for a little village. They're up high and they produce pressure to have the flow water down and store tank or water for extra. So say a water tank in the village of Sacks Harbor needs water to come into an intake in the village through a water plant to clean and process the water to then distribute throughout the village. And it sometimes includes this. So that's water that we deal with. And we also, the other end of it, we deal with the wastewater that comes from the village. This is in the town of, or village of Cape Vincent, I guess, a new wastewater treatment plant. And usually this is at the lower spot in the village and it all flows downhill and it gets processed and cleaned to just be redistributed out to a water body. The next thing we have is historic preservation. We've been working with Boldt Castle for many, many years, and historic preservation architecture is very specific. Like you research what kind of grout to use in all of these stones, what kind of finishes they would have used 100 years ago when George and Louise Boldt did this Boldt Castle. So that's a lot of churches, the Jefferson County Courthouse, the historic courthouse on Arsenal Street. We did that. That's a historic preservation project. One thing we got into a couple of years ago is aviation, which is cool because we've been flying privately around to our projects for a while. This is the Watertown Airport, the ART is the call letters, and this is their business office and FBO. Everyone's familiar with the where you fly public, the American Airlines, whatever, flies out of the other building, but this is where all the private planes come in and out at the airport, including us. Probably Purcell people are familiar with this. They're coming in and out of here. So that's an office building in the business center for that. But also the hangars, for instance, those doors you'll see there are humongous and they open and for planes to come in. So can you imagine the structural engineering needed for this type of project? I'm getting into being marketing again instead of talking to you about what is needed for this. But even the color of the blue was picked out by the architect. The type of windows that reflect like that were picked out by the interior designers of the type of stone. So this is, I'll wrap it up. These are schools in New York State that you can go to school for architecture engineering. The ones in red are places where we've had people come to our office to work. So check out any of those. And then we also have an internship program. Some of our owners of our firm started out as interns. You have to go to school for 1 year in your trade, engineering, architecture, construction management, whatever, and then apply to us in around January. And then we have 20, sometimes not this year, interns come to our office and we put them right on the streets, right in the middle of the projects. And we do that to help retain, our friends and family and whatever from around the North Country to come to work in Watertown or Ithaca or Saratoga, but also to provide us with kind of a channel for new people to come to our firm. So that's on our website, information's about that. I would suggest you go to our new website. It's www.thebcgroup.com. You should have put it on here. And I don't know how long I was, but I'll wrap it up.
Excellent. That was perfect. It looks like you don't have any questions, but I had a few. I think I might have missed this. I always like to learn more about stuff like this. So how many people did you say you employed? I think I missed that.
Well, I might not have said it. We're 100 people, around 60, well, I don't know if it adds up. So, because a lot of people are in the field, probably 60 people report to that Watertown office. We're 100 total, but we have so many field people doing construction management, and we've hired 5 people in last week. So my numbers are off. Around 100. Around
100. And is there like a set schedule for everybody? What are the days kind of look like? I know there's a lot of different people in motion on this, but are all the days kind of the same, or what are the days look like?
Well, that's a good question. Except for this year. This year I just went home and kept working, which is amazing. It's like we don't need the square footage of that office anymore. We excuse me. We have something called flex time, where sometimes people need to wait to drop off their kids in the morning or pick them up early and they whatever. So you have to meet your 8 hours, but you can start earlier or later, whatever. We do usually have summer hours, but we have sort of a core part of the hours of the day where we kind of want everybody in the office together, about 10 to 2 for collaboration, for working, but we're being very flexible. And what happened was with the coronavirus and sending everybody home, it was the ultimate test. We haven't stopped. Everybody just grabbed their stuff and went home to their dining room tables, and we haven't stopped. All the buildings are still being designed. Everybody's in contact. We have Microsoft Teams as our main thing, and it's been a beautiful test. Like we can be home. We don't need to all be sitting in there together. So it's been great.
That's amazing. That it is really amazing that we've been able to, or you've been able to just continue working even remotely for something as big as this. Now, I also had one more question. How long does a project typically take from start to finish?
Very good question. And it totally depends, of course. Well, we just started with a recent school district project. From my beginning of the project is when I meet the person, maybe I meet the school superintendent at a conference and they say, oh, you know, we might be changing architects or we might want to do a new project. Okay. Then we do the change in an interview and then we get hired. And then we work with them for the pre-referendum section of our, say, the school district. That is, they are going to decide what they want to do for a new project because it needs to be put out to the voters. So that could be less than a year, it could be 6 months to a year, where we're kind of generically deciding on what the project is. We want to do a pool and a new turf field and they need to renovate all their classrooms. So that's called the pre-ref. So then when it goes to vote, it could be another solid year for us to design it and the state education department to approve of it because they fund it partially and they approve that all the school districts in New York State are built well and safe and to code and all of that. And then it goes out to bid and contractors such as Purcell bid on it. And there could be a 3-month bidding period for that. And then it goes under construction, which could be 2 years to 1 year. It depends on the magnitude of the project. Some people do just $100,000 project every year, a school district, and it could be just a month-long thing. So it's interesting.
So it really depends.
Yeah, it totally depends. And an intern could come in and start a project and then the next summer that they come back, we're still working on that project. You know, it's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I learned a lot from that I didn't know.
I could talk about it for another hour, but I tried to do a brief thing.
And you have a lot of hands in a lot of different pots. Like I was not expecting aviation of all things. So that's very, very cool to learn. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you for doing this, and I'm gonna leave too. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Our next.
Interrupt real quickly, Celeste, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Those that are attendees here, if you would like to ask a question verbally, you have the option, just to reiterate what Celeste said earlier, you have the option to raise your hand. You can do that depending on the type of device that you're connected by selecting the 3 dots at the bottom of the video and choosing raise hand. On a mobile device, it shows up a little bit differently, but you'll see the option for raising your hand if you do have a question and you'd like to have your microphone unmuted. There's also the Q&A option where you can type your question and we can answer that either verbally or text you an answer. Sorry, Celeste, I'll turn it back over to you.
No worries. Thank you. Always good to have a reminder. We are going to go next over to Bob Wilmott from the Carpenters Local Union 277. Bob, take it away. I don't know anything about this, so I'm excited to learn.
All right, thank you for inviting us. My name is Bob Wilmott. I'm a council representative with the Carpenters Local 277 out of Syracuse, New York. We currently have 3 offices, one in Syracuse, one in Binghamton, and one in Horseheads. And that being, we cover 21 counties. So that's a large area to cover, especially when you get up there in the North Country. So there's a lot of miles in between places. So we have our membership is over 2,600 members in the Carpenters Local. Of those 2,600, we have almost 300 apprentices, which is that's a lot of apprentices for us. I think this is the most that we've had in a long time. So with the apprenticeship program, you don't have to have any skills. It's good if you went to a BOCES for construction. It kind of helps you a little bit, you know, transitioning out of school and into the workforce. But as far as skill wise, you don't have to have any skills at all. We offer all the training. The training is free. You'll go through the apprenticeship program, which is a 5-year program. Most people who are coming out of high school are entering into our program as a first-year apprentice. And then you work your way through that program to finally become a journeyman carpenter. We've worked with Purcell on many jobs. I think we're working with them up at Samaritan Hospital right now. You know, it's a really good program. All the training's done right in Syracuse, and we got a brand new training center in Syracuse. Just built it 2 years ago. And you know, like Nathan said, you know, our average age of construction worker is 27 years old, and so we're always looking to get the high school students coming out of high school, trying to help them transition into a good career. You know, with that, you know, all we do is carpentry work, and most of that is in the commercial industry, schools, you know, commercial buildings downtown, hospitals, things of that nature. You know, right now we're currently have, I think, 30 carpenters working up at the port of entry right now, which is a nice job that's moving along pretty nice. But we have a lot of work in the North Country as well as, you know, down south in the Binghamton, Horseheads area. Our average typical salary for an apprentice would range from anywhere from $14 to $28 an hour plus benefits. So first year apprentice coming out of high school with no experience, he's going to be right around $14 an hour plus benefits, which is another almost $12 an hour in benefits, which would include health insurance and your pension. And so to be qualified to be a carpenter, you don't have to be any skills. You just have to have a high school diploma or an equivalency. And really, that's all I got. And, you know, just a little introduction to our program.
Great, thank you. I was wondering if you could talk a little more about what's different in something like a union, if there's something different about that than opposed to other employment.
So some private contractors offer like a 401k. They do offer some benefits. With the trades, union trades, we offer a pension in place of the 401k. And a little bit of difference, you know, as some of you may know, between the two, 401k, once you draw that money out when you retire, it's gone. Your pension will keep paying to the day you die. So that's a pension is a really nice thing. We also have another retirement tool, which is an annuity, which is very similar to a 401k. So, I mean, really, that's the only difference. You're still doing the same work. I mean, even with Purcell, they're doing the same work that we do. So, you know, really the work is the same.
Great, thank you. And what would be the most challenging part of the day for a carpenter, and what do you think is the best part of the day?
I would say the most challenging part of the day, it would depend on what kind of day it is outside. So the weather is a big factor in that. You can guarantee if you're going to be in the ditch doing concrete, it's probably raining or 10 degrees outside. So then when it's 100 degrees, you're inside hanging drywall. So you can pretty much count on that one. So that's a typical day for a carpenter. So
what do you think the best part is about a typical day in a carpenter?
I would say the best part, not just in a typical day, but I would say the best part about being in the construction industry in general is being on that job, working on that job from start to finish, or maybe you just had a specific portion of that job that you were doing. When the job is all done and finally it's open, you know, you can drive by that and say, I built that or I helped build that project. That's probably the most satisfying being in construction.
That's amazing. Yeah, that feeling of accomplishment. And I did have one last question. I ask a lot of questions on behalf of myself and everybody else. So is this just seasonal work? You did mention 10-degree and 100-degree weather. So is this year round or is it just seasonal?
So construction is year round. The projects still have to get built. Obviously, our construction season is more spring to fall. So right about now is when we're really ramping up. And then usually around Thanksgiving into Christmas, things start to die down. There are opportunities out there for our members to work year round. We do have a lot of members that work year round. So it just depends on the company you're working for and what project you're on, really.
Great, thank you. To any of our attendees, make sure that if you have a question for Bob, you click on that little button that Eli was describing that says more options and raise your hand if you have one, or you can write it in the chat. But for right now, thank you so much. We are going to move on to Mike Maxam. I hope I got that correct. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about what BOCES can do. So let's see. Mike, you there?
I'm here.
All right. So Mike is going to tell you more about the Bohlen Tech Center and architecture, engineering, and 3D design at BOCES. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right, thank you. And I have to apologize. Murphy's Law kicked in, and that just before I came on, they decided to mow the lawn next door.
No worries, it happens.
And then there's an office right next to mine. So in any event, welcome students that are here, and I appreciate you coming this morning. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. I teach the architecture, engineering, and 3D design program over at the Bohlen Technical Center and the Jefferson Lewis BOCES. And the reason that I became a teacher is I really enjoy sharing architecture and design with students. I'm an architect outside of teaching and outside of school. And it's just the ability to come in and just share my career. I've got 30 years experience doing this. And the rewarding part also is that I'm passing on that knowledge. But it's enjoyable to see students who have an interest in art or have have the ability to really convey their design ideas and drawings, and to help them develop that skill into a career field of architecture or engineering. And it's just downright fun some days to see them grasp this and then take off with it. And also stories of students that come back after years in the field that have taken my program and come back and talk about what they're doing and share their stories with students that I currently have. So the educational requirements to become a teacher of architecture or engineering, you have to be a licensed New York State teacher, and you have to have college degree in education, also with a number of years in the field, professional experience in the field and the content that you're going to teach. So what we learn in our program, we're tied to Jefferson Community College, a number of other colleges. We have articulation agreements there. So while a student would be in our course, they're also earning college credit if they can do that caliber of work. On the architecture side, we learn the design process of designing residential and commercial buildings. So residential homes, the structures that you live in, and commercial could be banks or churches or retail stores, those type of projects. We learn about the methods of construction, and we learn about materials that are used in construction and the properties of those materials, and where you would use one material over another, and the shortfalls of some materials and how they're affected by different loads we impose on them that engineers would be concerned with, and also even the properties of materials, weatherability, that sort of thing. We use a couple of different softwares in our program as we're designing and producing construction drawings. I'll talk about that in a second. One is AutoCAD for our 2D drawings, And then the other, when we do 3D modeling, we use BIM software as Building Information Modeling, or Revit. And we're able to build a virtual model of the program, of the structure. And as we work through the design, then we can analyze it and look at making changes to that model a lot easier than in a 2D program. We learn how to produce construction drawings. And what that allows the student to do after completing our program, the successful student has the ability to then continue their education either at a 2 or 4 year degree school. They could go to Onondaga Community College and take their architecture program, which leapfrogs them to SU or University of Buffalo in those programs. Or they could go right into the workforce if they're very good, very proficient, and are a dedicated student. They could go right to work at Purcell Construction or BCA Architects. There's a number of architectural firms that are looking for CAD operators and drafters. So with that skill set and their work ethic, they could easily secure a position with one of those firms. So what we did when I said we produced construction drawings, that's another thing. So they'll learn how to produce the drawings that are needed to build the building. Basically, that's what construction drawings are. And we get into specification writings also that tells everything about the materials and their application that go along with the drawings. We have a good time in our class. We work on a number of projects, both in the school. We're working on, in the past, we've done some of the projects for the building the carpentry program is building, the house out back. And we're working on some community projects now. So folks will call us up and ask if we can help them out with some design projects in the community. And we happen to be working with the zoo right now on some projects over there. And it gives our students the ability to take some pride in their community. And as Ms. Reinhardt had mentioned, to be able to see something built that they had designed. And so we help nonprofits get started into the design process, and then they would then take it on to the BC group or another firm when they get to that point where they need a licensed architect on board for professional services. So that's kind of the projects we work on there. The modeling side of it, we have 3D printers in our office and, excuse me, in our classroom. And we have the 3D printers that they might have at their home school. And then we have some higher end printers also that is a liquid deposition printer. So it lays down layers of material like a inkjet printer, and they can build a model of a mechanical assembly, and I'll talk about that in a second, or an architectural model of a building also. Career fields, they could go on to become architects in the program. They could go on to, with more college, they could be a draftsman or CAD operator, go right into a firm. They could be construction managers. They could be manufacturers reps, say for an Anderson window or a Pella window company or any materials manufacturer. A field rep for them, where they would actually go around and visit construction companies and architects and bring them up to speed and have seminars and training courses on what their materials are and the latest developments in the materials. Then to flip over a little bit on one other piece of the program here is the mechanical side, also the engineering side, where it steps a little bit out on the rocks away from architecture and construction, but it's still the design and engineering side. And that is the mechanical side, where we learn how machine parts are designed also. So students will be able to learn how assemblies are built. And this will be anything that's manufactured, say from an automobile all the way down to a bicycle. They would learn the different processes of machining and tolerancing and classes of fit between parts, and how gears and threads and fasteners and all those things are either designed and cut and machined for chosen, from parts supplier for the assembly. And those softwares, we use 2D, again, AutoCAD software, and we use SolidWorks, which is 3D modeling, and they can build a virtual model of the part also. And then we can print prototypes of those parts. So in the career field for that also, is they could go into a mechanical engineering field with additional college training, or they could become a draftsman or a CAD operator also within that industry. And that's what I have. If there's any questions.
Great. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Sounds like there's a lot you can do with that program, especially. There's a lot of different directions you can go.
There is. And what I tell students when they come and visit the program, anything that is made, anything that's built, anything that is manufactured has to start with a drawing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Everything as we learned from BCA architects too, you have to start. You just got to start with a drawing, and that's what you got to do. But that is phenomenal. What a great avenue for students to take. But we'll just give it a little bit of time to see if anybody has any questions. Remember, you can type in the Q&A, or you can use those 3 little dots, click that button, and you can raise your hand. If there are no questions, I did want to thank all of our panelists again. Thank you very much for joining us. For the attendees, we do still have 12 other sessions that you can join us for. So if you enjoyed this, you might want to check out STEM as well. That's on Thursday, and check out some of our other sessions and career clusters. But thank you to everybody who joined architecture and construction section. We're glad to have had you. Again, thank you to the panelists. You did a fantastic job. I learned a lot of things. Thank you for answering my questions, because I always have a lot of them. And I'm going to end the session here. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please check out the mytps4success.com/VCF2020. You can leave a comment or feedback, and I will get back to you if you had any other questions or comments that you wanted to make. But thank you again to everybody. I'm going to end the session, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.